With April coming to a close, it's officially time for another monthly game review. This month, I once again have 4 games to look over, beginning with Resident Evil 4, Mario Galaxy 2, Journey, and ending with Far Cry 4. So without any further ado, let's get into the reviewing. Resident Evil 4 is widely considered the best Resident Evil game, if not one of the best games of all time. It practically reinvented the third-person shooter and set the course for the next Resident Evil games, even if that really wasn't a great course. Resident Evil 4 is a weird blend of both classic Resident Evil and more modern Resident Evil, excluding 7. It has elements of horror and can get pretty creepy at times, and yes, I'm looking at you, Regenerator. But there's also lots of set pieces and quick time events, which I've always thought were rather pointless, where you're shooting up enemies. Alright, I'm getting ahead of myself though. Let's set the groundwork. As you've probably heard a million times, Resident Evil 4 was reworked multiple times, and one of those became Devil May Cry, blah blah blah. Anyways, the game takes place in an almost medieval-like setting. You play as Leon, returning from Resident Evil 2, and now working as a Secret Service agent, I guess, somehow. The events of Raccoon City are long gone after they decided to bomb the entire city, and Umbrella is also finished as well, which most Resident Evil fans were not too happy about. Instead of fighting zombies, you're fighting the Los Illuminados, a cult set on world domination who somehow kidnapped the president's daughter. And, as the United States would obviously do, they send only Leon after her. Yeah, there's a lot of dumb stuff in the plot, but really who cares? Anyways, these Los Illuminados people are infected by this germ that makes them practically turn into zombies. So if you couldn't tell, the story and characters are a little odd in this game. Cutscenes are usually super cheesy, but almost always hilariously entertaining. Almost all of the characters are quirky and messed up, but once again, very fun to watch. The enemies are pretty varied actually. Of course you have the basic zombie-like villagers, but eventually some of them get more powerful, change appearances, or have giant parasites popping out of them. Some of them are unique enemies, are super creepy and annoying to fight, like the Regenerator or the stupid guy with no eyes. And the chainsaw guy gave me a heap of anxiety every single time I heard that chainsaw rev up. Of course, with good enemies, you obviously have to have good things to shoot them with. The guns are a pretty big highlight of this game, especially with the huge amount of variety and the ability to upgrade them. You've got a handgun, an SMG, a shotgun, a sniper rifle, a hand cannon, and an RPG, all sorts of fun things to blow your enemies' heads off with. As I said, weapons, tools, and other things can be purchased from the mysterious merchant dude with the money found around different maps. Upgrading weapons is fun and rewarding, and it allows you to upgrade what you want and play how you want. While I did say that the shooting is fun, the controls are a bit of a different story. I got this game on PS4, and man, it was a little weird at the start. The tank controls often felt wrong, but I did eventually get used to them. Same as the ability to not walk and shoot, which was definitely a lot weirder. I had just come off of playing Resi 2, and when I started this game, I was expecting more modern controls like that. By the end of the game, as I expected, I had gotten used to the controls, but they still weren't wonderful or anything. All weapons do have a laser sight to help you aim, and the rifle even switches to first person when you aim to make it a lot easier. Okay, so I did say that the basic enemies were fun and unique, but as the game went on, the bosses started to become the exact opposite. I really didn't have much fun with the bosses. Now, this might have been partially due to how I'm one to save all my good resources for boss fights and then blow through them like a breeze, but I still didn't find them great. Some are action heavy with quick time events slapped into them, and others are just so boringly predictable and easy. Speaking of resources, let's talk inventory. The inventory in Resident Evil is either a love or a hate thing. I personally thought it was fun finding space and reorganizing my inventory, but I can definitely see why some people wouldn't like it. In terms of special items other than guns, There's grenades, which I never used because I was trying to conserve them, but I just never used them. And healing items, which include herbs and first aid spray. Some weapons can be combined with extra parts to make them better, like an extra long scope on the rifle. I think the health is done relatively well, same with the amount of items you get. It's in the perfect spot between not too much ammo, where you can draw stuff on the walls, and too little ammo, where you're just using your melee weapon all the time to conserve it. Which I still did, but that's against the point. As I said, your health is done pretty well, but it's when a certain other character comes into play that the health can get rather annoying. Ashley, the president's daughter, is a helpless girl who can't really do anything to defend herself. Ashley is in kind of a weirder position with me. I didn't ever hate her, but she didn't really add much to the game either. Yes, the sections without her were the best ones, but the ones with her weren't that bad either. The only times it was really annoying was when you were separated from her and forced to protect her from afar. This only happened like twice though. During the really difficult sections, they even made sure to give her a place to hide where she was literally invincible, so that was nice. Yes, she's annoying with her high-pitched screaming voice, but in terms of escort missions, I would say this is one of the much better ones. Moving on, let's talk about the locations. This game is set in a lot of wacky places that you would never get from any other Resident Evil games. You go from villages to castles to a very lame island at the end, but just ignore that. All the level design and places you visit keep the game fresh and interesting, excluding the end, which was the worst part of the game, except for Mike, RIP. Anyways, with all these wonderful locations, there's gotta be good graphics paired with them, right? Well, not actually. The character models are all nice and polished up in the PS4 HD version, but the locations not as much. They're definitely a bit more blocky, but not unbearable. Take into account Majora's Mask is my favorite game, and the N64 version is still the best, so I don't care about graphics that much. On one quick note, the music in this game isn't great, with the only memorable song really being the safe room one, which is kind of expected of a Resident Evil game at this point. As you would probably expect, this game is only about 15 hours long for a single playthrough, although there's tons of stuff to do once you're done. You can try extra hard mode, do New Game Plus, or one of the many shorter stories of side characters, which were unfortunately not completely updated to the HD graphics, but they're also not unbearable or anything. I'm not one to do lots of these things, at least right after I beat the game. I tend to leave it for a while and come back to it when I feel like playing it again. Okay, so I know I've been talking about this game for a while now, but one last thing I want to touch on is the idea of a remake. Do I think this game needs a remake? No, not at all. I thought it was still a joy to play, even if a few things could be polished up. A remake might give it better graphics or updated controls, but it could risk losing all the charm that the original had. I'm fine with the game how it is, and a remake would be fine as well, only if it improves though. Anyways, while I still don't completely believe Resident Evil 4 should be praised as much as it is, I can't deny it is a standpoint in gaming and should be played by everyone. I'm giving it an A-. Last month we went over my review of Super Mario Galaxy for the Wii, and this month I'm bringing my review on the second. Alright, so I want to start out with saying that I did enjoy the first one better. Is it really better? No, probably not, but I did have more fun with it. This might be due to a number of things. I played both games back to back, so maybe I was a little Mario Galaxied out, or maybe it was a harder level design in the sequel. But still, I enjoyed my time with the first one better. In all honesty though, I think the first game exceeded the second one in every way, except for the actual gameplay, which at its core is what Mario is about. So yes, the sequel is an even bigger step forward for Mario game design, hosting all sorts of new abilities, Yoshi, and all sorts of other new ways to jump around through multiple galaxies. As I mentioned earlier, this game requires more stars to beat it, and hence requires more backtracking to collect special I'm thinking of Mario Odyssey. I meant stars. You see, in the first game, I almost only did the main galaxy stars, and I avoided comets and all that stuff. That really isn't an option in the sequel. which led me to have to do some rather annoying levels. Frickin' Spring Mario. But for the most part, levels are fun, innovative, and the bosses rock, like always. Moving away from that aspect, here's what the game falls down a bit more. The story feels like a repeat of Mario Galaxy 1, just taking out all the good parts. Purple Luma guy, who I don't even remember the name of, will never compare to the likes of Rosalina, who added so much to the first game. Same goes for the Mario ship compared to the Comet Observatory. Again, the score in the second game doesn't compare to the likes of the first. Not to say it's bad, it still has its highlights, but nothing so amazing like the first game. So, I really don't know what else to say. Mario Galaxy 1 will probably forever be my favorite of the two, but I do realize why some people will see it the other way. I'm going to give it a B+. Jeez, I talked about Resident Evil 4 for like 10 minutes and this section was super short. Anyways, on to the third game. Because of this whole global pandemic, to encourage PlayStation owners to stay home, Sony decided to release 2 free games. The Nathan Drake Uncharted Collection, which I will get to eventually, and Journey, a massively popular indie game that I'll be talking about right now. Journey was a rather unique experience, to put it blankly. I'm not sure what I was expecting, but what I got was a sweet 2-hour game. Now, I wasn't expecting some huge tale with tons of story and stuff, but the whole 2-hour thing was a little underwhelming. Despite that, I'm honestly not sure the game would work so well without it. It's meant to be a short, wordless, emotional tale that can be experienced by anyone. And for most of these points, it delivers. The controls are super basic and easy to understand. Practically anyone could play this game. Sometimes it's almost weird to say play, more like experience works better. You can't lose, and the puzzles and platforming, I guess, are also relatively easy. Anyways, the game does a great job of telling a story with no words, exposition, or really anything at all. All you get is your main character and vast lands to travel through, all on your way to the peak of a tall mountain in the distance. Does the game even tell you what's there? No, but it doesn't really have to. You understand that's where you're going, so that's where you go. Now, one thing that I did find a little underwhelming was the emotion, or my connection to the story. Yeah, it was a sweet little tale, but I never really felt much. Everyone who I heard talking about this game said you'll feel really happy, and then sad, and full of despair, and then back to hopeful. And, well, I don't know, I just never really felt any of that. I could see how some people might at certain parts, but I was just like, okay, I guess that happened. Or maybe I was too concentrated on other things, like the rather stunning visuals. Well, there's no amazing 4K water graphics. The simplicity and color of everything in the world of Journey works so well. It was always amazing to look at. Some of the screenshots I got, man, they are beautiful. Combined with the soothing tone that always changes to match everything, it was very beautiful. Anyways, before I get to my final rating, the addition of meeting other people along your journey was something so small, but so nice. I love just chilling with random people I didn't even know, working together to solve puzzles or get trophies. It was super fun. In the end, I'm not exactly sure what to think of Journey. Maybe I just didn't understand it or didn't experience it how I should have, but I really don't understand what all the fuss is about. Despite that, I will give it a B-, as I did enjoy it. Now, I know this video has been going on for pretty long, but we still have one last game to review. Far Cry 4 was an introduction to the series for me, even though I really wasn't planning on it. I was actually going to start with Far Cry 3, see how it is, and continue on to 4 if I liked it, but when 4 went on sale for super cheap, I couldn't resist. Am I glad I bought it? Well, for the most part, yes. Far Cry 4 was something rather different from most games I play. I prefer to play things that will leave an impact on me, while still being fun and entertaining along the way. Far Cry 4 only delivers on the second, and doesn't even come close to the first. The gameplay is solid, but everything else is just so bland or honestly garbage at some points. Let's start with the story. You play as Mohan Gale, journeying to the land of Kirat in India to spread your mother's ashes. And you get there, surprise surprise, civil war, now there's people to shoot. That's pretty much the entire premise. You're fighting with the Golden Path, a resistance force, and you're fighting to take down Pagan Min, the dictator of Kirat. It's pretty much God of War's story, but take out literally all of the good parts. The story might have actually been more investing if the characters weren't hot garbage as well. The Golden Path has two main people running for the leader, Amida and Sabal. Throughout the game, each main campaign mission will task you with either choosing to do things how Amida wants or how Sabal wants. In the end, you end up choosing the leader. Anyways, Amida and Sabal are so bland and boring. I didn't give a damn about who won, I just chose whichever mission sounded funner. Along the way, you'll meet other quirky characters like this dude who sells guns or these guys who like to get high. They are also boring and annoying, rather, actually. So despite all of these weak characters, I do have to give credit to Pagan Min himself. He was the only person I was actually interested in, and it was very disappointing to see practically none of him, except for the beginning and the end. If there was one thing that could massively improve this game, it would be the option to join Pagan, which would be super sick. Anyways, moving away from the bad stuff, let's talk about the core gameplay. Being an FPS, the core gameplay is, surprisingly, shooting things. If there's one thing that this game does shine in, it's the gameplay. Shooting is always fun due to the massive amount of weapons that can be slightly customized. I would list some variety off, but that would take way too long. As the game progresses, you get more and more guns until you finally get some really broken stuff that can plow through hordes of people. The amount of ammo you get is usually about right, but it does lean a bit too much on the way too much ammo side, which does work for what type of game it is. But where the guns shine, the bows do the opposite. Bows aren't usually my weapon of choice, but I really hated them in this game. The controls are super weird and unresponsive, and the annoying part is that during the early game, having a bow is essential to hunt. Hunting animals with bows gives you more pelts, which you need to succeed, so I always found myself carrying one around, even when I didn't want to. For those who don't know, you can only carry 4 weapons at a time, so that's why it's annoying. Paired with the great shooting is also some great controls and transportation. The controls, excluding the bow, are great, and it always feels smooth to run and jump around. Even swimming is honestly done so well, except that you can't attack underwater, which is a little aggravating. As I just mentioned, the transportation in this game is another highlight. You can drive cars, fly little helicopter things, drive boats, drive hovercrafts, literally tons of fun vehicles. You can also shoot while riding, which leads to some pretty badass moments. With all of this, let's discuss what you're actually shooting. The two main things are people from the opposing army and animals. The people can also be riding vehicles, which leads to some fun explosions. Enemy variety is a little lackluster with really only a few different people. Basic soldiers, snipers, heavy gunners, stealthy hunters, and leaders, who are usually more guarded or armored. Now animals. Animals. The animals in this game can honestly be one of the worst parts about it. Hunting them is fine, but when you don't want to hunt them is when it gets annoying. Aggressive predators will attack you whenever you get close to them, which can mess you up in so many ways. Trying to do something stealthy? Oopsie, gotta kill that bear right behind you. Yes, you can use this to your advantage and kill enemies with them, but who cares? It's freaking annoying. So when I play games like this, I tend to use stealth. Stealth is usually my go-for in all games, and it was rather fun in this one as well. You can track people through walls with your camera, which is a little broken, and perform silent takedowns. I love silently picking off soldiers and hiding their bodies until I could finally get to my goal. Despite that, going in guns blazing is actually a relatively solid strategy, as long as you have the resources and the skills. Running in and shooting everyone actually works pretty well. Being such a huge open world, this game offers a lot of opportunities for stuff to do. The actual world is a disappointment though. All of the main objectives, even collectibles, can be marked on the map, so there's really no point in exploring. Graphically wise, the game looks fine. Nothing breathtaking, but this one optional world called Shangri-La was rather stunning. It uses mainly gold, red, and white for a color palette, which does make it a rather beautiful place to traverse. Throughout the main world, there's a huge amount of collectibles, all of which are completely useless, but I still got them anyways. I actually 99.8%ed this game because I had nothing better to do. There's just this one gun that I didn't get, which required doing a stupidly hard and long side quest. that I really just didn't want to do at all. As I said, the world is full of all sorts of optional side stuff to do apart from the main campaign. You have all sorts of side missions for side characters, smaller objectives just for fun, or even smaller karma objectives, which we'll get to in a second. There's also outposts, which task you with eliminating everyone, and then it lets you fast travel there, and towers, which are just the classic Ubisoft towers. With all of this to do, you can imagine that one might get quite sidetracked. And yes, that happens tons, but it's only really annoying at one point. Your captured outposts can be attacked, meaning you have to defend them, and if you don't want to lose them, which gets in the way if you're headed to go do something somewhere else. It can be rather annoying if timed badly. Some of the side quests for the characters were actually pretty fun, despite the characters being rather boring. Like the ones where you get high and it's just a blur of colors and random stuff happening. And one was actually relatively creepy and stressful. I quickly mentioned karma earlier, but it's pretty much this mechanic that goes up every time you help civilians and goes down whenever you kill them. Now, I don't want to make it sound like I want to kill civilians, but when you accidentally hit one or two on the road, it's annoying to see the bar go down and then have to redo karma missions. Karma is not the only bar ticking up though. You can actually level up in this game and choose new abilities to unlock. You get XP from almost everything, and by the end of the game I was the max level, so it's really a breeze for the most part. You can also get to level up your carrying capacity for everything by hunting, which I personally hated, but I can see why they did it. There's a currency in the game that can be spent at merchants and shops around Kyrat, used mainly to buy or upgrade guns. It is also very easy to get, as you can loot it off of bodies and get it from people you've helped. The music in this game was rather dull, with the only memorable track being this one sick bop that played during the armed escort missions. And as one last point about Far Cry 4, the game is very, very easy. Dying doesn't happen often too late in the game, and checkpoints are super generous anyways. Overall, Far Cry 4 is a game meant to be fun, and that's nothing else, which I am okay with. I will give it a B-. Well, thanks everyone for sticking it out for me and watching this entire video. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I do hope to see you guys next month. I'm not sure what's going to be there, but we'll find out soon enough. Stay safe, and thanks for watching. Bye.